Hey, it's time for Streaming Idiots with your chief idiot, Tom Sinclair, coming to you live. Well, if you're watching us live, it's live. Got some really interesting stuff to talk about on the hardware front. Hope for all those folks that want to use 1,000 webcams in their production. We'll be right back. Hey, I tell you what, it is an exciting day to be alive, number one, but to be involved in the business that we're in, this whole streaming stuff, whether you're doing it for profit or just because you enjoy it. You know, there's all sorts of cool stuff going on. It's amazing. It really is amazing. You say, Tom, what could you possibly be talking about? Well, I am talking about just this morning, and this has probably been around for months or years, and I just never knew it. But I just stumbled across a PCIe card that is a 4-port USB 3 card that promises to have like 5 gigabits of bandwidth for each of the 4 ports. And I want to talk more about that in just a second. But now that I've sort of whetted your appetite on that one, I'm going to whip that dish right out from underneath your nose. Now, I do want to tell you, coming up next week on Streaming Idiots, we're having a special time, special show, special time. It's going to be Wednesday night. That's going to be April 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 1 in the morning Thursday if you're in Europe or in England anyway, and probably like 11 o'clock in the morning in Australia on Thursday. So we're going to wipe out our overseas audience, or else really make you stay up later, do something crazy. But we're delighted because Martin Sinclair from vMix is going to be our guest. Martin will be out in California, so it'll be 5 o'clock in the afternoon California time. Martin's spent the last week in Las Vegas at NAB, and I think is coming up on Streaming Media East up in New York in the next week or so, and is squeezing out some time to be with us. And so we're really delighted. So it's going to be 8 o'clock on April 29th, 8 o'clock Eastern, April 29th. We'll be live. You can join us. Obviously, we'll be uploading it to YouTube after that, so you can pick it up on YouTube. And by the way, we welcome our YouTube visitors today, too. Glad to have you. We'd always love to have you come watch live. It's a bunch of fun. But we're hoping to have a good live audience next week. That's one of the reasons why we moved it into the evening time, so that those of you that work during the week and can't get to us in the afternoon in the U.S., can come in and tune in live, because I think it's going to be a great opportunity to ask him some questions. And of course, I'm going to be asking him a ton of questions, but I know there are things that you want to know about vMix, about the past, present, and especially about the future, because things are popping at vMix every time you turn around. They're releasing hardware products. There's that control surface. They've got the dedicated use PCs. And what else? What else is this guy thinking about? Maybe he might just throw out a little tidbit that he hasn't told anybody else about. Doubtful, because he's just in the middle of all these conferences, and I'm sure he's saving his big guns for them. But Martin Sinclair, CEO, developer of vMix, will be with us next week, April 9th. That's Wednesday at 8 p.m. Tune in live. Tune in live. Okay, so enough of that. And I've already got somebody saying, I hope you put it on YouTube because I won't be able to be there. Well, you may just have to stay up, get a little coffee. Stay up with us. It'll be fun. You won't regret it. That's for sure. You definitely won't regret it. The show today is going to be about this card. And let's see if I can pull up the graphic for it. Yeah. And this is not going to look good. This is not going to look good, but I'm going to put it up anyway. And let me try to get the best picture I can possibly for it. Bear with me just 1 second. Well, looks like, oh yeah, there we go. All right, that might look best. Let's just cut to the chase. This is a card that is 4 ports. It's a PCIe card, I think it's a 4-lane card. It's a SuperSpeed USB 3.0 card, and you can see the 4 USB ports there on the left. It purports to have 5 gigabits per channel in terms of speed and availability. Let's see if we can give you another shot of the card here so you can see what that's the back side of the card. Let's go to the front side. This is what you're seeing is the Newegg website. This is a StarTech card, but you know, like most of the StarTech products, it's just rebranded. And let's close out this window. We'll come over here and take a closer look at the card, and you can see the 4 USB ports. It also comes with a low profile bracket if you've got a low profile PC. It is priced at $86.24 here on Newegg. I think Amazon has got it for $80.53. But here's the promise. The promise is that this card will allow you to plug in 4 different webcams, high definition webcams, 1080p, 720p, and have all 4 of them going without choking down your PC, without choking down your controllers. You know how if you've got, you know, multiple webcams and you're just arbitrarily plugging them into different ports, and let's say you've got 2 and you're plugging them into a laptop, and one will work and one won't. And that's because the 2 ports you've chosen are basically controlled by the same USB controller. So then you start playing swap the ports and try to figure out where the controllers are. If you're smart, you go into Control Panel in Windows and see what ports are where, so that you don't put more than one webcam on more than one controller. And so if you've got 4 ports, that might give you enough for 2 webcams. If you've got a big PC and it's got 6 ports, you might have enough for 3 webcams. But what the promise is here is that you can do 4 webcams and not have to play the port shuffle. And so you plug them in. Now, the criticisms of the card, and I don't have one of these. I'm thinking about ordering one, and I want to get some feedback from the folks in the chat room on what they think about it. Let's go back to the card for just a second. The criticisms have been that the USB ports right here, where they're set into the bracket, are set a little deep into the bracket. So sometimes it's hard to get a good connection. Or depending on how your PC backplate is configured, the backplate may partially obscure the sides, the left and right sides of these ports, so that you can't get a good connection. That's me. I'm going to take out my Dremel and just modify my backplate, but that's just me. It does appear to be Windows 7 only. I think it purports to be Windows 8 or 8.1, but reading the reviews on Amazon and on Newegg, it sounds like folks that had Windows 8 had problems. It also sounded like folks that had Dell products had problems. And you remember Dell a lot of times has problems with the Blackmagic add-in cards, and so we can probably put this card on that same list that Dell just doesn't really work well with. On Amazon, when I'm looking at a product, whether it's Amazon or whether it's Newegg, and I'm looking, let's go back to the Newegg shot for just a second. I'm looking at the reviews, and I want to see how many of the reviews are 5-star, and how many. In this case, there are only 4 reviews, so it doesn't really help. And they've got 1 5-star, 1 4-star, 1 2-star, and 1 1-star. But over on Amazon, there are 176 reviews. Well, 20% of those are 1 or 2 stars. So that's kind of a cringe factor for me. When there's if there's 10% of the folks that rank it 1 star, or in this case 20% of the folks, actually, it's more like 14% rank it 1 star. Excuse me. That can indicate a problem. And in reading through those, most of those were Windows 8 or Dell problems. And there were a couple of folks that got, their boards came in DOA, and that's to be expected in a large sampling like that. But outside of the Dell issue and outside of the Windows 8 issue, for folks that are running Windows 7 on a non-Dell PC, this looks like a good opportunity for you if you're a webcam guy. I mean, if you're doing a home-based talk show in your spare bedroom and you've got 2 couches in there and you got a bunch of mics and you're inviting friends over and you want to have 1 camera established for each person, and so you put a little post in the middle and you've got 4 different webcams pointed different directions off of that. Boy, wouldn't the tally lights from Ted at Tally Lights come in handy in that situation. Anyway, that will be one of those opportunities where something like that will really make it doable. Now, I've noticed on my PC, mine is a Windows 7 quad core, so that's going to be an Intel i7 2600K. And that's a quad core. It's slightly overclocked. I think it's overclocked to 3.9, whatever the measurement is, gigahertz or bobberhertz or something. And when I use webcams on mine, I notice that the webcams, when they're plugged in, that they will draw anywhere from 3 to 5% CPU. Now, these are all 3, again, full disclosure, that's 2 Logitech C920s and 1 Logitech C310. The C920s are 1080p's, the C310 is 720p. I think I've got them all 3 set to 720 anyway, but nevertheless, they are using some CPU horsepower. So I'm curious to see if this board does any processing of that and maybe eliminates some of the load on the CPU, or at least reduces some of the load on the CPU. If that's the case, this is nice. This could really be nice. I could see it working in a small studio where there was a talk show format, and again where you didn't want to have to invest a lot in cameras. I mean, to get a good camera, you have to spend at least $500 to $800, if not more. And whereas you can get a Logitech C920 for $70, and you've got, well, maybe not 1080p because of frame rate, but maybe 720p, which let me show you. This is a 720p shot right now on a Logitech C920. And it's done a pretty good job. Boy, what a messy studio. Why did I even bother to show you that shot? So obviously I'm not right here. That's just a green screen, yes, and it does a great job. We're using vMix for our production today. And by the way, full disclosure, I am an authorized reseller for vMix and also for VidBlaster. And I design and build custom PCs for broadcasting, so if I can help you with any of that stuff, shoot me a note, Tom at streamingidiots.com, or you can go to Eastern Shore Broadcasting and find out more. So this card, it's called the, let's flip back to it here for just a second. It's the StarTech PEX USB 3S 44V. 4-port quad bus PCI Express SuperSpeed USB 3.0 card adapter with UASP, SATA, LP4 Power. How about that? Boy, I tell you what, they can come up with some names, can't they? And I guess the longer the name, the greater the price. The bigger the name, the bigger the price. But this is from StarTech. It's a rebranded product. I think it's like from Rhesus Electronics or something like that out of China. And the so if you're looking for something in this area, I would commend it to you. I think I'm going to get one. I think I'm going to get one and try it out. Not that I have that kind of studio need. You know, I've got the webcam set up, and I'll just run through the webcams. The color correction on these guys is not right, but this is one that's sitting on top of one of my monitors in front of me. You can see the colors off. This is the one that's sitting over my right shoulder, kind of giving you a desktop view, and then this one. Whoops, there we go. This one is sitting on my desktop, which just gives us the ability for me to show off a product or demonstrate, you know, what's going on with the mixer, or show you a mic, or whatever it might be that we're doing for that particular show. So it's helpful to have all three of those available to me to use at different times. And heck, if I found out that you could do have all three of them plugged in and not tap out the CPU, I might add a fourth one. And again, sometimes it's just a perspective shot. You know, in a show like I do, where we're talking about broadcasting, you know, it's no fun to talk about it. It's more fun to show what's going on with it, so that people can see, you know, exactly what we're talking about and how it's working, or they can better visualize what something like this would look like if it were in a you know, a small studio environment. And you know, a lot of times when I go to this shot, I always get questions from folks in the chat room saying, you know, well, what's that piece right there, or what's that board over there, or and I know I need to do a studio tour, so that's where we need to go next. We'll do a studio tour real soon, I promise. Anyway, the PCIe Express card, PCI Express card from StarTech, I think is worth a look. And there's another look at it, and we'll kind of zoom in on some of the features of it. Again, 4 USB 3 ports. 4 lanes of PCIe, if I read the specs correctly. And it's a pretty long card, so you're going to want to have enough space for it. But it's not real fat, so it's not going to reduce, it's not going to kind of impact other cards in terms of where you put it, in terms of heat and heat dissipation. So that would be the concern that we might have there. So that's probably worth a look. That's probably worth a look. And again, I think I'm going to get one. If I do, I'll make sure that I come back and report back to you guys on how it does. Just last week on this show, Streaming Idiots, and our sister show, that VidBlaster Guy, part of Eastern Shore Broadcasting, we hit 200,000 views on our YouTube channel. Really excited about that, and thank you to all the YouTubers that tune in for the first time or regularly. It's a treat to have you, and it's an honor to be part of that. I was looking at the stats today, and in the last 28 views, we've had over 9,300 views of our videos. 9,300 views. That's stunning to me. That's a lot of folks watching a lot of idiot. That's what it is. Over 41,000 minutes were viewed. Boy, you guys are desperate, aren't you? That's right. That's right, Tom. Insult your audience. That's the best way to grow an audience. Go ahead and just insult them. Make them feel bad. But we had, in spite of insulting you, we had 47 new subscribers to the channel in the last 28 days. So, you know, that's cool. I'm honored and feel really blessed, and I appreciate the voice of support that says that, you know, that you're doing something right. You're stumbling around, and we're learning from your mistakes. We've currently got 216 videos up on YouTube, and that stretches back I guess really to July of 2012 when we did our very first show, that VidBlaster Guy. If you want to laugh at something that's really awfully produced, go back and look at the first couple of shows. I mean, the guests, bless their hearts, the folks that came on and our guests were very gracious, but some of the shows were just awful. Although Al Bunt came on, I think, our very second show and talked about church broadcasting, and to this day, it's one of the most widely viewed videos on church broadcasting. And he and I were, we didn't do a very good job, but I think we were talking about an issue that people were interested in, and he's been back on the show 3 times since then, or maybe twice since then, to talk about broadcasting. So you'll want to do a look on that. And I think you can just Google that VidBlaster Guy Al Bunt, and it'll pop up all 3 videos, because I think we've keyed it like that. So I commend that to you to go back and take a look at how bad we were to begin with at the very beginning of all of it. I've had a couple inquiries this week about folks that would like me to build custom PCs for them, and one of the ways that we start out with that is a needs assessment. Okay, what is it what are you going to do? What are you going to need? And most of the time, and I've done this a lot with folks over time, most people really haven't decided. They're really not sure. They're not sure if they're going to do this, if they're going to do that. They want to leave all their doors open. And sometimes that's the hardest PC to build, is the one that leaves lots of doors open. For the folks that know exactly what they want, boy, we can dial right down in on it. But having said both those things, I will say that just because a PC is built doesn't mean that it can't be modified later on. A good example is that one of the people I was talking to this week wants to do a 4-camera shoot. Well, it didn't take long in talking about that, because he had 4 specific cameras that he wanted in mind. It didn't take long to realize, well, he really did need a 5th camera, and that in the future he could very well benefit from a 6th or 7th camera. And so, we have to plan and make sure that we've got, if we're going the capture card route, that we've got enough PCIe slots available and that they're fast enough to be able to handle those future needs. And so we're selecting a motherboard that is got that kind of future capability into it. If we're getting one where we're filling up all the slots right off the bat, then future expansion means replacing the motherboard or buying a different PC altogether. So that's not quite as difficult to design. But we're also talking about, what about, well, the cameras that he's thinking about are HDMI output or composite output, meaning standard definition. So his only high definition output was HDMI. Well, HDMI is just not a good connection for something that's going to be plugged in and unplugged a lot, i.e., sports venues where you're setting up and then you're tearing down, you're setting up and you're tearing down. Here in the studio, I'm using just an old Canon HF100, and it's going USB into my Intensity Pro card, not USB, excuse me, HDMI, into my Intensity Pro card. But it doesn't get unplugged, ever. I mean, I guess it might if I'm rearranging the studio or doing some dusting or something like that, but it doesn't get unplugged. So we're not worried about a plugging and unplugging issue. But I will tell you, having done that with other cams in other places, the HDMI just doesn't hold up. So we now have to talk about, well, we need something with a BNC connector, something that's intended to be plugged in and unplugged repeatedly. Or at least RCA, meaning a component connection. So that impacts, what the capture card is going to be. And so, we have to go through all those hoops of figuring out how everything's going to connect together before we start building the very first thing. Essentially, we've got to build it on paper and make sure that everything's going to work, at least in theory, on paper before we start building anything in terms of hardware. And speaking of building, I had intended to give you guys an update on our portable PC build because that's coming along. But I'll have to wait till when I have some pictures for you, because I've got got some good pictures, and I think you'll really be interested. Very, very quickly, we took an old, beat up, worn out portable PC that was built back in 1999. Back then, it sold for $29,000, and we basically stripped all the guts out of it, except for the monitor and the keyboard and the built-in mouse on the keyboard. And so we're kind of building it back. The beauty is that it has a detachable keyboard and a built-in monitor, and all sorts of space inside the case. And the case is, rugged with rubber bumpers. So we're going to build it back and see if we can't create something really good out of something that was old and basically unusable. So it's always nice to kind of reclaim something and keep it from going through to the dump. Excuse me. I guess that really brings us to the end of the show. Boy, time just zips by sometimes, doesn't it? So take a look out there at and let me flash to it one more time. This is the StarTech PEX USB 3 S44V 4-port quad-bus PCI Express SuperSpeed USB 3.0 card adapter with UASP SATA / LP4 Power. Available from NewTek for $86.24. Available from Amazon for $80.53. And I think the Amazon one is actually available $83.53, $80.53 on the V Prime. So if you're a V Prime member, you get the shipping free. And I commend it to you. If you're using a lot of USB webcams, this may be the golden. What would it be? The golden capture card. That's the best I can think of. The golden capture card. Remember too that the reports on it were that it worked best with Windows 7 and that it did not work well with Dell products. So keep that in mind as you decide on that. Coming up again next week, April 29th, we've got a special time for this show. I tell you what. Go to our website, easternshorebroadcasting.com, and go to the little special video sign up on the side there, and sign up, and we'll send you a note reminding you of this upcoming show and of our other shows. And sometimes we'll post videos that we don't. We'll put them up on YouTube, but we may not release them to the general public right away. So if you'd like to know about those when we put those up there, we'd be happy to do that. So you can sign up, and we'll let you know about that. And so Martin Sinclair from vMix coming up next Wednesday, April 29th at 8 o'clock Eastern. Ted with Tally Lights coming up May 6th on our regular afternoon shows, and we'll have more information on that. And then hopefully Tracy Goodwin, the Red Sweater Lady, who is your speech lady who talks and tells you how to enunciate and how to keep audience interest when you talk, all that kind of stuff. Will be coming up, we think, May 13th, and we'll let you know about that. So I think you'll find all of those really interesting and worthwhile. I am Tom Sinclair, that VidBlaster guy, and excuse me, wrong show. I'm the chief idiot, and boy, aren't I ever the chief idiot today. Oh my, wow. Just not the right guy for the job. Obviously, I'm not the right person for this job. But nevertheless, I really am delighted that you would tune in today, and I look forward to seeing you again on a future episode. Later. Bye-bye. Gosh, I am such an idiot sometimes.